Hey everybody, welcome to Nib Pickin'. My name is Steven. I am a fountain pen artist, and today we are going to be looking at the Delike Brass Pocket Pen, the 2020 edition. I was excited to purchase this 2020 edition because I've had my eye on this pen for a while, but I felt like the older edition was a little bit too derivative of the Kaweco Lilliput, and I didn't really want to buy something that was attempting to be another type of pen. But with this new redesign, you can really see they changed a few things around. A lot of the core ideas are still intact. I've never had a brass fountain pen before, so I'm excited to see how that is. I'm going to be showing you the parts of the pen. We're going to ink it up, we're going to do a drawing sample, and I'm going to come back with my thoughts at the end of the video. Stay tuned. Okay, here's what we are looking at today. The pen came in a box. This is, it's nice that it comes in a box, especially for a less expensive pen. This is some kind of very soft wood, like maybe pine, something like that. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to keep this box or not. It's definitely not made to last. It's very light and feels almost like cardboard, but it is wood. Anyway, it comes with this cardboard sleeve that says Delike and some Chinese characters, which are different from the ones that are at the top here. I don't speak Chinese, so I cannot tell you what they say. Here's an interesting thing. When you pull the sleeve off, it says Moonman. And so there's that constant debate, and I think somebody knows the answer to this. If you do know, leave me a comment to let me know. Is it Delike or is it Moonman? Are they the same? Are they different? Why are the names always being mixed up? I'm so confused. Anyway, all that being aside, I'm going to just take the lid off this box and you'll see how the pen arrives. There it is. Okay, this is made 100% out of brass. The only parts that aren't brass, I believe it's a steel nib and a plastic feed. We'll get into that in a little bit. Does come with 2 ink cartridges. I'm not sure if I'm going to use those at all, but I'll probably put them in storage somewhere. Here's the pen. Without the cap, it's quite short. You can see not very comfortable to write like that, although I do sometimes write uncapped with my Kaweco Sport, which, by the way, I'll be doing a side-by-side comparison of the two because they're quite similar to one another. It's very obvious that Delike or Moonman or whoever they are has modeled a little bit of this pen after some Kaweco models. If I had a Kaweco Lilliput, I would probably use that because that's a lot closer to this, but the Sport will do because that's what I've got. All right, so here's the pen. And with the brass cap, you would screw the end on here to get the full-sized pen. And that's a nice, comfortable length. It's also got a decent heft to it, which is kind of what I was looking for. Let's look at all the individual parts. So this cap is much narrower than the Kaweco Sport cap. And as you can see, it's a completely round cap. It's trying to roll a little bit on my table. And it doesn't have a clip, so there's that. But if you see the cap comparison, much shorter. As far as the bodies are concerned, the Sport is a little bit longer, but about the same width. The nibs are somewhat similar in length. This Sport is a little more deep set. This is a fine nib, and this is an extra fine. It is what they refer to as the bent nib, and I'm going to show you that up close as I can get with my camera. It's only a slight bend. It's not really a fude nib, which is what I thought it would be. So it's really just a slight bend, and I'm kind of curious what that does for the line variation. We're going to see in a little bit. The nib itself has a twist insert that comes off here. I forgot, got to take out the converter. This is me making mistakes with my pen right away. All right, and this does kind of look a little bit like the piston converter that comes with the Kaweco Sport. There's the nib assembly unit, and Delike or Moonman or whoever actually sells extra versions of this. So if you want to try with some other nibs, you don't have to buy a new pen, which is nice. Then there's the section. Compared to the sports section, I'd say, I'd say they're just about the same size. So very close in size there. And we talked about the body already. This is the body, made of brass. Has threads on the inside for getting the section, and the other threads are for the cap. Threads on the back end, a little bit of a rounded end to it. Very similar to the Sport for putting the cap. So those are all the parts. This converter, I'm not a huge fan of. It feels a little bit cheap, but we'll see how it works in a little bit because I do prefer converters to cartridges. And the unfortunate thing is I don't believe that these are standard international cartridges. I've seen some reviewers say that they are and some say that they aren't. In my experience, I tried a Kaweco converter, which is standard international, but didn't seem to work. So maybe there's some that work better than others, but it looks actually like it's its own proprietary cartridge. So you're kind of stuck with this flimsy looking converter if you go with this pen. But we'll see if it works well. We're going to try it out in just a little bit, put some ink in. So one of the lovely Christmas gifts that I got this year that I haven't had a chance to check out yet is the Colorverse mini collection. I really like this ink company, particularly for their packaging. They're out of South Korea. You can see on this side here, it says made in Korea. These are little 5 milliliter bottles. So they're basically just samples, but there's a bunch of fun colors and they're related a bit to science. The titles usually are, which is exciting to me as a science teacher. So I have these 3 colors: conjecture, somnium, and planetary motion. And I'm going to give planetary motion a whirl in this pen. Let's just do the unboxing. And they slide right out, these little tiny boxes. I'm going to peel back the edge. One of the cool things about these boxes and this ink is that you get to mix and match. So almost, I think all the colors that they have available, which is a lot, could be matched into a set of 3 and sent in a little box like this. The packaging on the Colorverse is really great. One of the things that I really like about this company is their packaging. There's all kinds of cool little kind of Easter eggs you can see in the cap here. And then the name Planetary Motion. There's a little logo for that. Let's pull out the box. Well, you can see what it comes with is this adorable little bottle. And there's also a pipette. I believe the reason that this is the way that it is I'm guessing that people that created this ink realized that this hole is going to be too small for a pen to go into, and we'll see that in a second. And so they included the pipette for filling it in an alternate way. So when I unscrew this lid, you can see it's a pretty small hole. I'm guessing that the pen will not go through there, and if I'm looking at that, yeah, that's not going to go in. So rather than get the nib kind of messed up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the converter in. I'm going to fill it up that way. All right, whoops. There we go. That seemed to work. I don't see any leaking or anything with this Delike converter, so that's positive. I'm gonna place this back on the pen. All right, no incidents there. One thing I am gonna do, and this is gonna be a little bit tedious, is I would like to prime the nib, so I'm going to actually push some ink through the feed until I see, I don't know if you'll see it on the video, but until I see some bubbles coming up. Okay, and that should give me just enough ink coming through that, without getting ink everywhere, that I can start to draw with it. All right, let's move on to that. Okay, I'm going to do some test lines with this pen. As you can see, it is quite short until I put the cap on the other end here. Makes a nice satisfying ring sound. I do like that sound. Holding it in the hand feels a little bit slippery, so I don't know about that, but we will see how that affects me in a long-term drawing. But these are just some test lines. I'll start with, I'm trying to think of things that I can do for these that'll be interesting. But I'll start with just doing some writing like you would normally do, and I'm going to give you guys some art advice. Okay, I can see this is an extra fine with a bent nib, and I can already see the nib's got some character to it depending on what way you give the stroke. It is varying. I think that's fun for writing. Does it work for art? Well, we're gonna see. Art advice. Perfect. Proportions. Before details. Something that it took me a long time to figure out. It's not going to look good if you add all the shading and all the blending if you didn't get the shape and the size and the location right the first time. So lots of planning before you do your art. If you guys like art advice from me, please let me know. Otherwise, I will shut up. Going to give the different kinds of line weights I can get from this because there's some variation because of the shape of the nib. If you can see from here, it's got a slight bend to it. It's not like as extreme as a Fude nib, but it might be more like an architect grind, but I don't have a lot of knowledge about that, so I won't talk about something I know nothing about. If I do a straight line, straight down like this feels thicker than an extra fine. A sideways line is even thicker. Not a large difference there, but I definitely see that this one is a bit thicker right there, the sideways line. And then I've noticed also you can get a decently thin line by holding it straight up and down vertical, and that's pretty thin. I'd say this is a pretty uncomfortable way to hold the pen, but if you need some straight lines that are really thin, you can do it like that. Also, reverse writing is even thinner. It's so thin, it almost disappears at the end there. But that can be good for some really thin stuff, especially if you go slower. So once again, this is the pen drawn forward. Pretty bold, pretty thick line. And then this is reverse, and a little bit of skipping if I go too fast. So I slowed down on the back there and ended up like that. All right, just gonna do some quick shading exercises with it. I'll take this square, a cube. How about a circle as well? So I feel wet flow here. I'll be very careful not to put my arms across it because I think that's gonna be something I'm gonna have to worry about. Getting fine details out of this is probably not going to happen, but there is a charm to this kind of wet flow. I can get kind of a scribbly design. And the other thing I'm going to try with this square is just filling in large blocks of color is pretty good without any gaps. That's very wet though. So can get some decent hatching there. If I do reverse on the top, let's see, comparing all the different lines that you can get, there's something there. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Do some kind of squiggly, squirrely stuff here. These lines kind of remind me of like an old Roald Dahl book with those kind of scribbly illustrations that they had. Not detailed, but pretty fun to do. So yeah, looks like we're gonna just have some fun with this. All right. So this isn't really the normal kind of thing that I draw. I'm not very good at machinery. Hopefully that doesn't come through too much in this, but I had this idea since this pen is a pocket pen. I'll draw the most unpocketable pen I can possibly think of. I kind of envisioned this being a little bit like a Richard Scarry illustration. I know I've got a lot of international viewers, so if you don't know who he is, I believe he's from England. He's a children's book author who does these crazy machines and big detailed city drawings with all these sort of animal characters that live in a giant city. I used to love those books so much, and my favorite thing was looking at the machines and stuff. So hopefully I give this a little bit of justice. I had fun using the pen, actually. I thought that the thicker lines would be an issue, but it was nice. Again, I didn't get the detail necessarily that I wanted, but it's very smooth, and it is possible to get really fine lines if you absolutely need them. But I come to find that I didn't need them as much as I thought. And anyway, even though this may not have turned out exactly how I'd 100% hoped, I could always come back to it, build something more, improve it. Yeah, that's kind of the thing with art, is the only kind of art you can't fix is the kind of art that you don't make. So I took a little risk in making this. Hopefully you all will take some risks with your art as well. I hope you like the drawing. Okay, we're back, and I gotta say, despite some of the issues I had with the pen, the nib not really being what I would define as an extra fine, and just kind of it being a really juicy kind of wet writer, which I don't tend to like, I did actually have a lot of fun using this pen for the drawing that I did today. I think there are some issues with the flow being really high, and I think that, you know, not everyone's going to be into a brass fountain pen. It is quite slick, and the mechanism of kind of uncapping and having to thread it on the back could be cumbersome for some. So I don't think this pen is for everybody, but it's definitely worth a look at its price point. It's hard to say it's not worth it, and I really do like this pen. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this pen. I will be using it in the future. I think it's a really great pen if you're working large and you need some thick lines. A little bit of line variance is possible here. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And that's all I have for today's video. So it's just left to say thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all being a part of this community. And if you would like to join our little fountain pen art family, please hit the subscribe button, like this video, share, or give me a comment. Do you have any brass fountain pens? Do you enjoy using them? Have you tried this pen before? Would you consider trying it? Love having conversations with you guys down in the comments. So hit me up, and I will